What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to yet another phenomenal sales hacker webinar. And today we have two awesome and phenomenal special guests, my good friend Jesse Williams, who runs marketing over at ExecVision, and Ali McKee. She's the CEO and founder of Stick. And today we're going to be talking about how sales and marketing leaders can leverage LinkedIn, Quora, and Medium for lead generation. So I think kind of the rhetoric that I've seen on LinkedIn, and I think Jesse and Ali might agree with this, that there's this cold calling to death sort of thing has been beat pretty hard. And we want to give you some outside of the box ideas, strategies, tactics to kind of supercharge your lead generation in some ways that you may not have been thinking about. So that's kind of the goal for us today, is to kind of just expand your mind and get you thinking differently about lead generation on these sort of unorthodox platforms. So let's just dive right in. The agenda for today is personal branding, getting into a social selling rhythm, building your voice. We're going to get into some LinkedIn growth strategies that you may not have experimented with yet. And if you did experiment with some of these, we're going to help you kind of sharpen your toolkit there. We're going to get into some Quora tactics. We're going to get into cracking Medium. And I think Jesse is really experienced with some of this stuff as well. So I'm really interested to hear what his insight is there. And I know Ali's a pretty heavy power user on Medium as well. So we'll get her best practices on that. And then finally, just kind of tying it all together with simple techniques for starting and advancing your sales conversations after you've been active and using these platforms to the best of your ability. So let's just get right into it. But before we answer this question, I just want to open up the floor to Jesse and Ali to kind of say what up and introduce themselves. So Jesse, welcome aboard, man. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're up to, man?
Yeah, thanks, Katana. Yeah, so we're over here in Washington, D.C. So you can see a little bit of the city behind me. I'm marketing director at a company called ExecVision. We're quickly growing, cruising through building revenue and getting new customers on board. Some of my responsibilities, I'm all the way top of funnel, brand marketing, all the way through growth marketing, and then into demand gen, so pushing leads pretty far down into the sales funnel, all the way to SQL is where my responsibilities lie. So I kind of see the whole picture, and I'm excited to kind of give my 2 cents in how these mediums play in, especially for the SDRs, because those actually sit under me in my role as well.
Nice, man. That's really interesting that heads of demand generation and marketers are kind of steering the ship for the SDR camp. I think there's been a little bit of a shift towards that. Ali, have you kind of seen the same?
Yeah, so I'm coming at this from the smaller end of the spectrum, the 0 to 1 true sales hackers out there. So I'm the founder of Stick, a visual communication platform. And what we're doing is we're building, not unrelated to this topic actually, a tool that enables you to visualize your ideas automatically to build more engaging content. So whether that's visuals to embed in a Medium post, or whether that's a tweet with actual content in it, not just a photo, or even sales presentations. That's kind of the problem I've been diving into. And so I'm really passionate about this problem because it's been a great dog fooding opportunity for me, actually. If you want to sell more, promise companies more engaging content, you got to figure it out yourself first. So this will be fun.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of questions coming in about recordings and the deck. So we will record this. This is being recorded right now. And if you don't want to miss anything, subscribe to Sales Hacker on YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us there. We post the recordings, and then we'll follow up with you with the deck as well. Speaking of sales decks, Ali, you are the queen of decks. So if anyone doesn't know, we did the Sales Hacker deck on Sales Decks. And Ali did a great job putting that together. So if you go through our content library, you'll be able to find that on Sales Hacker. Great value, tremendous value, all for free. So for anyone that may be an account executive on this webinar that's looking to sharpen up their presentation chops, make sure you go check that out. All right, cool. So, do sales reps really have marketing responsibilities in 2018? Jesse, I'll let you take the lead on this question, man. A lot of folks don't feel that this is the case, but what are you seeing in your world?
Yeah, so let's define marketing responsibilities, right? I don't think that sales reps have to own a brand, but they have to own their own brand, right? So sales is all about relationship building. If there's no way for someone to figure out if you're legit or not, then there's no way they're going to build a relationship with you, especially when you're calling across the country. You know, there's so many companies out there that set up shop in India. They create, you know, a name for whatever region they're dialing into. They create a number with that region, and then they send their people out to go and, you know, interact with people in that location. And when you go and you research who this person is, if there's nothing there, if there's no personal marketing where you can say, hey, this is a legit person with a legit company, you have a real issue. So brand marketing, no, but marketing for themselves, absolutely.
Yeah, Ali, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add to that. It's not only just from the verifiable building up almost the social proof behind the interaction, but you're also dealing with increasingly annoyed and frustrated buyers, right? So even if you can set up that cold call mechanism, you're not getting as many answers as you did 5 years ago. And one of my favorite quotes from if you haven't been following Jocko on this, you got to follow Jocko. He's the best. But one of his sayings is, content is the new outbound call. So as we get, and particularly GDPR stuff too, right? Like as it becomes more and more difficult to just reach out to people, you're going to have to create the magnets rather than be knocking on the doors.
Yeah, I agree. And there's one thing that kind of stands out to me beyond all this stuff is like, if you're an unknown SDR at like Drift, right, or Intercom, a massive company, I mean, this is obviously gonna be less important because Drift carries so much, you know what I mean? Like people know Drift, that you don't really have to, work that hard to establish your personal brand, even though you should if you're a rep. But if you're at like a very unknown SMB company that's just starting to gain traction in the market, you definitely do need to work pretty hard to make this happen, because you can't just rely on the company brand firepower like Jesse said. You got to start doing this stuff on your own. So let's start getting into some actionable stuff here. So getting into the marketing mindset, just a couple of things that I thought we should lay out here. I think for sales reps, it's about getting out of your comfort zone. A lot of folks are uncomfortable with just getting into this rhythm of like, okay, where should I start? How do I start? And then commitment to doing one marketing activity per week or one personal brand building activity per week. There's tons of examples of salespeople doing this that I can point out to you guys in a second, but just want to pass this over to Jesse, man. Like, what's your thoughts on this whole, where should I start if I'm a rep that's pretty inexperienced with doing this? Where could I possibly start if I had to pick a few things?
Yeah, so I think the first place to pick, and we have our reps do this all the time, we have a sales tool, and so their audience is actually relevant to the product that we're selling. So we're a little bit unique, but we have our reps actually go and post blog content. So at the beginning of the week and the end of the week, we'll send out an email digest. Hey, here are the 3-4 new blog posts that are live. Here are some founder LinkedIn posts. Go ahead, interact with them if you want, redo the post on your own, share them over your LinkedIn profile to reach, the people who you have connections with. So super easy, takes them about 15 minutes, but it's very, very valuable. In fact, we've had SDRs that have moved on, and been hired out of other companies because of doing stuff like that and getting visibility. So it's great for their career as well.
Yeah, it's really smart. Ali, what do you think?
Yeah, it makes it, but by building in, I refer to it as like the muscle, right? So for me personally, we can get into the details on LinkedIn, but I just build 15 minutes into every single day on my calendar, and it's part of my thing, right? Whether I'm walking to work or on the train or whatever it is, but I know I've got those 15 minutes and I'm going to post something. And then it lowers the bar for, it doesn't have to be the best post in the world because I'm posting every single day. And two, it builds up the repetition. I think that that's so important when we are crazy busy and your schedules are insane. Unless you're doing something every day, it's going to keep pushing out. And that's what happens with my Medium articles. We can talk about that.
Yeah, I've got an example of one of your Medium articles in this deck. But yeah, I agree. It's a super easy, low-hanging fruit activity. Every company in the world, I think at this point, is producing blog content. So if you're a sales rep, the easiest thing to do is just go over to your old marketing team, check out what's the latest hot thing on the blog, and get a conversation started about that topic on LinkedIn. And then another tip that I think is very valuable is to follow your target accounts blogs, sign up for their newsletters, see what's happening in their world, and start sharing that content, start tagging the authors, start getting conversations happening around those topics. Because if your target accounts and prospects are talking about this on their company blog, it's obviously something that's important to them. And if you can start contributing to that conversation, you're going to be more and more in the mix. Now, one thing I would say is don't go ahead and tag every single person that you want in that LinkedIn feed to see you, because if you're tagging like 90 people, it's kind of like, it's tacky, you know, like what are 90 people going to say about this? Just let it happen on its own, slowly but surely, and let it happen. So guys, anything else before we move on to the next slide?
Tagging people is a great point, though. We have, when our founders do posts on LinkedIn about the company, our new feature, product release, something like that, we'll actually have our sales reps go in, and a lot of times they'll tag their most recent conversation. If there was someone who said, hey, I'd love to sign up, but we really need this feature set. When we build out and that post goes out, they'll tag them, bring them back in, and open up the conversation. So tagging people is really key.
Mm-hmm. We've got a question here from Tom I want to pull in. I think it's an important point. He says, with a post every day, don't people shut off the info? Doesn't volume drown out quality to the point that people don't listen? Or is the goal simply to have your name pop up? I don't know if you want to take that. I've got an opinion on that as well.
I do. So I think that it depends. I see people who post every day, and the problem with the people who post every day is they tend to post a lot of the same things.
Yes.
And I think the other thing that the problem with that is they tend to post the same types of content. So it's the same types of like one-line written stories. Like you definitely need to mix it up. Like if you're going to do a written story that's one line spaced out on Monday, Wednesday you should do like a video. Then like Friday you should do like, I don't know, like a screen share thing with someone talking about what happened with your week. Like we do that a lot at Sales Hacker. Max and I will do like a review of something, or like whatever the case is, we'll share our screens and talk about stuff. But I think the most important thing is just don't be too sort of like the example I use is like if you're a CRM company, you shouldn't be talking nonstop about CRM. You know what I mean? If you're a social selling guy, like don't talk nonstop about social selling. Like it's too predictable. You know, it's almost like if you're in a relationship with someone and you keep taking your significant other to the same restaurant every time, it's like, I know where we're going tonight. You know what I mean? So I don't know, Jesse and Ali, what do you guys think?
Yeah, just to echo that. Go ahead, Jesse.
Go ahead, Ali.
I would say like think about, just because you're selling to one person, one persona or one industry doesn't mean you need to limit it. So things like I have a very set, ICP, right? But I write about hiring. I write about management. I write about building product. Write about having confidence in the tech industry. Like you can write about all different types of things, from leadership to problem solving to people, and goodness knows, I mean, unless your company is perfect, there's always material, right? So I think the more it can be, it's less like, oh, I've got to do a post so that I can get prospects. And it's more like, what is an authentic conversation I can start right now that it will actually add value to the community?
Yeah, I think that authenticity is really, really key. There are different types of content that have different levels of intrusiveness into someone's life, and even like the value that it adds to someone, right? So constantly sharing, just kind of regurgitated information off of Medium, or let's say you're in marketing, right? Everyone knows the millions of pieces of marketing SEO content that comes out, and none of it's new. Don't share that stuff. I mean, you can share it every once in a while, but don't give me the 4, old dated SEO tips that I knew about 6 weeks ago. Tell me something that you're trying to do, something you're testing that you might fail at. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, great point. And we have more of that stuff coming up in the deck. So let's get into some LinkedIn growth strategies. I think I wanted to break this down into 5 key points. There are obviously way more than this, but I think these are the ones that we could rattle off our brains and just start diving into. So storytelling and writing status updates. I have some specific examples of how to do this effectively coming up in the next couple of slides. Another tactic I wanted to point out was to search your brand name on LinkedIn. I think this is a very underrated tactic. You can definitely search your brand name on LinkedIn, your product on LinkedIn, and find people who are having conversations about your product. You'd be very, very surprised how many people are talking about your product that you don't know about. Like I said, videos, and like what Jesse just said too, don't just talk about like the same old stuff. Like one interesting thing that I saw one guy do is like an experiment of how many cold calls could he do in a day. And yeah, it was super controversial. Everyone hated it, but at the end of the day, it blew up. And it even got my attention. I'm like, you know what? This guy, he's got cojones. Like he's putting himself out there. And I really respect that. And there was a couple of people on that thread. They're like, damn, let me hire this guy. Like people were really trying to get him. Then obviously engage like crazy. We're going to talk about some follow-up steps. The last thing you want to do is just spam people who start commenting on your stuff. That's not the way to do it. And then, as we kind of mentioned, follow key stakeholders on your target accounts list. Find highly engaged threads to prospect on. That's another dirty little secret. A lot of folks actually have DM'd me in the account executive world and said that my threads are one of their top prospecting places to go, which don't be doing that, all right? But I know people are doing it, so I don't know. Let me pass this over to Jesse, man. What's your thoughts on all this stuff? There's so much here. What do you think?
Yeah, there's so much that's incredible. I mean, I'm learning just from reading some of these slides and having some good ideas, but I really like the storytelling aspect on LinkedIn. If you can get down storytelling, that's key. I mean, that's gonna expand across all of the 3 channels that we're gonna talk about here. But if you can get storytelling down, that's really, really key. I think the other thing that people miss out is the engagement. Someone comes and your goal is to get people to comment on your post, right? I know people might say, hey, we're not for vanity metrics, but come on, let's be real here. Like, you want people commenting, you want people liking your post. It's just rude not to comment back, especially if someone writes a question. And I get that all the time where I'll follow an influencer, or not even an influencer, even just an executive at a company, and they write something and I ask them a very thoughtful question and they never get back to you. You're never going to ask a question to them ever again. And that's one person out of their network that's not going to be interacting with their content. So engage back.
Yeah, agreed. Ali, what do you think about all this?
Yes, I mean, storytelling. And I think this is such an art, and it's so difficult, but the key thing to know about storytelling is that storytelling is all about change, right? I think once you really internalize that, then you start to be able to test, okay, am I actually telling a story, or am I just giving a narrative? Because a narrative is like bland, dull sequence of events. A story is actually, it talks about something changing. Ideally, it's going from kind of the pain to pleasure with your product, right? Because all 2 emotions fall into those 2 categories. And there's got to be an emotional point to it. There's got to be a key turn that shows, look, I started here, but I ended up here. Or even better, I started here and ended up here, right? And I think just making sure that you're really thoughtful about, is this an actual story, or am I just giving tips? Because if you're going to give lists of tips, fine, but everyone kind of knows that's clickbait at this point. So it's like, maybe those are kind of your warm-up exercises, but the stories are really what you should be trying to put out there.
Funny, we have some list style content coming up in this deck, but Jesse, I'll pass it.
Okay, this doesn't count. This is tactics. This is actionable tactics.
Jesse, I'll pass it back over to you, man, before we dive into the next stuff, because we still have way more to get through. But go ahead, man. Give us your breakdown.
Yeah, I think two things. So I agree with the list content, but at the same point, if you don't put a link at the bottom of it, I think it's totally permissible. I think the list to drive people through a link, I think, that gets really old. And then my final tip for LinkedIn that people have a hard time with, just because we don't like delayed gratification, is that sometimes you're going to have to test for weeks and weeks and weeks before people realize that you're putting out content consistently, right? Guy Tana does a great job putting out content consistently, and that's why I go and actually check sometimes in his LinkedIn post activity, did he write something new? People don't just automatically know, hey, Jesse put 30 minutes into a LinkedIn post or something today and it's really good. You have to do that for a long amount of time. There's a lot of posts that go unread, uninteracted with, unliked, unshared, all the things that we would say, oh, this is working, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. We've got a good question from Noah I want to address. It said, is storytelling my story or my company's? Both? What should I share and why would my prospects care?
Okay. I have a couple of thoughts on this. I think that some companies have very inspiring stories. Like, for example, I hate to use Sales Hacker, but we have a pretty interesting story, and I definitely use that to my advantage. Like, for example, Max posted yesterday about our remote culture DNA and all the things that make us a successful company because we're remote. We trust each other tremendously. People can work from wherever they want. I ran the marketing team from Italy last year. Max goes all over the place, right? But like, it's not at the end of the day all about just like glamour and I'm here and I'm there, but we're still getting stuff done. And employees are happier. Our team is, they don't have to worry about commuting, fighting through traffic, like all those things, right? So like if you have a story like that from your company that you can piggyback on, or like your founders, I hate to be cliche, but like if they started the company out of the garage or a box or something like that, that always gets the rah rah on LinkedIn going. You know what I mean?
That was a good move.
That's always a good move. You know what I mean? Don't clickbait it too much. You know what I mean? But then on the flip side of that, like if I'm not throwing any names out there, but I'm just using this as an example, like Oracle, they're like the biggest company in the world. What can you really say, if you're like an account executive at Oracle? Like everyone already knows that they're one of the most powerful companies out there. So you have to start using some of your own personal brand there to inject flavor into that massive sort of mysterious fog that's out there. You know what I mean? Jesse, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely easier when you can dog food your own product, right? So when your team is using it internally, that's great. But with stories, I want to clarify something. There's difference between stories and case studies. And so I'm seeing some questions come in that are talking about, how can you find a lot of, stories inside of a long sales cycle? Well, it's easy. I mean, every day you have some sort of story, right? And I do this on LinkedIn. If you go check out my LinkedIn, I'll actually do like demand gen thoughts of the day. And a lot of times those come from something that happened between me and my VP of sales. We'll have a conversation, I'll throw it up there. I'll have a conversation with one of my other buddies who's in marketing, and I'll just write 3 or 4 different lines. And that's a story that's relevant, even though it's not necessarily directly related to my product.
Yeah, I
Super
would say
smart.
there are two, if you think about this as a spectrum, right? On one hand is long-term, multi-million-dollar case study. Customer got this insight from our product. Customer took this action with our product. Customer achieved this outcome with our product, right? $20 million in savings, like great success. That takes a long time to write that story. And the customer is the protagonist, by the way, not your product, but that's another topic. That's like the big side of it. On the other side of it is like, I was in a demo call and I asked this question and it totally frustrated the customer and it threw off the entire demo call. And so what? I learned like not to ask that question anymore. Or whatever. It can be literally as small as like something that you said that didn't go well that you want to share that learning. But change is still key, right? Like you change your perspective on something, which means you learn something, and then you change the future of this company and help them achieve this. Like everything in between is valid, and it's just about once you start training yourself to notice those moments, then you'll start kind of learning to package them. But no moment is too small. And if it is too small, the community will let you know.
No, I love that tip. Jesse, anything to add to that?
No, I think that's awesome. Take what you learn on calls. The other thing is, I mean, in the sales world, how many calls do you get on where a customer says something that's just you would have never thought about, right? Either they compare your product to something crazy, right? You're the fruit roll-up of software companies, and you're like, what the heck? So dig into that and write a story about it. Why are we the fruit roll-up of software company? Maybe it's relevant to someone else. You never know, but it's a story.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, awesome stuff, guys. I love it. Let's get into some tips on how to follow up when people engage with you on LinkedIn. Just some quick and easy points to take away here for everyone in the audience. Some of them might seem obvious, but I get enough bad DMs and in-mails that I thought this was worth bringing back up to the forefront here. So keep it about them, please. Don't just delve straight into your services and what you have to offer. I really hate that. I get about 10 of these a week. I'm sure you guys do too, and it sucks. I block everyone that does that. Be a human. I know this one is overbeat as well, but just don't come off as generic, aggressive, or salesy. Keep it short and sweet. I can't tell you how many in-mails I get that are like 90 paragraphs long. Those get immediately deleted. And don't ask for too much. So when people ask me for like a huge commitment at the beginning, like that instantly makes me feel like, oh my gosh, they're already like asking me to do stuff, like, ugh, like I don't even know who this is. So what are your guys' takeaways from this?
I agree 100%, and don't send me links because I'll never click them.
I never click them either. In fact, anytime I just like see that hyperlink, I don't even like the text becomes like a blur to me. I just see that there's a link there. Oh, immediately delete. Delete and block immediately. Ali, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I think in accepting all these invites, it's you kind of, I mean, LinkedIn's becoming more of a publishing platform than it is like a true. I guess there are two camps here, but for me anyway, LinkedIn's more of a publishing platform, and so it's too overwhelming to individually really evaluate sometimes. But that's the fastest way to not only get removed but blocked is like that quick, 1-2 punch of like, hi, buy my stuff. Like we're all hustling, but you gotta know what your triggers are and know the context. You'll end up ruining the relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. Jesse, anything to add?
No, I agree. People are people, and you gotta treat them that way.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess with that said, I wanted to give a quick tip. One way to reduce distractions from your LinkedIn profile when someone gets to it is to remove or disable the viewer, people also viewed mechanism. So you can actually keep more people on your profile by removing that, because even myself, like I'm looking through maybe a prospect or someone who might be a good fit for the Sales Hacker Partnership Program, and then I see, ooh, all these other people. Now imagine if someone got to your profile and didn't see that, they would have more attention to focus on you. So that's just a quick little tip there for you guys. Let's just get into how the algorithm actually works. I want to move into the Quora tactics too, because we got to move along. But just a quick breakdown of how the algorithm works on LinkedIn. And this comes from their engineering blog. So basically, there's like a bunch of different mechanisms that deems whether or not content will be amplified via their algorithm. So things like links or repetitive sort of stuff within a post, that will deem it to be quote unquote suspicious. So the way that it works is like you have this content creation flow, then it goes into this content filtering mechanism with a content quality scoring, and then it's triggered by engagement, obviously. So a fast accumulation of likes and comments and shares will trigger that sort of amplification effect to happen. And then there's a human editor thing as well. So like I think once a post hits a certain threshold, it gets passed through to like a human editorial thing, and then it'll start continuing to be displayed throughout your network and have that sort of fade away effect, but it lingers longer because it hit that virality thing. So I know Ali and Jesse, you guys have probably been experimenting with this quite a bit, but anything to add to this diagram before we move on and show the folks some actionable examples of posts that have gone pretty far?
No, you know, one thing that I have found that actually, I don't know if it triggers it, but sending out links, we'll share links internally. We tried to do like in that digest email, hey, go and like it. And we actually found that posts that the person who likes it goes through directly through the link to that post, it actually doesn't go as viral as if they go and they find it in the news feed. So that's something to keep in mind that I don't see on there.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's because companies have been trying to quote unquote game the system by sending, hey, like this. So if like everybody's in an office under the same IP address, LinkedIn is obviously smart enough to know that they're trying to game it. Same thing like product hunt. You can't get everybody in your company to upvote your product and it goes viral. It doesn't work. Ali, any takeaways here?
No, I think that you nailed it.
All right, nice. Let's get into some examples of things you can do to generate controversy and conversation on your newsfeed. So, sorry to say, this was a list. There was no link. There was no link at the bottom of it, but you know, I'm kind of in a position where I'm allowed, if you want to say that, to speak my mind a little bit more freely because our company policy allows us to do this. So you definitely want to check in with your communications team and see what you can and cannot say, how far you could stretch the boundaries. But one thing that I definitely noticed that, a lot of B2B companies are struggling with content marketing, and I could have taken a soft approach to this and said, oh, most B2B companies are really struggling with content marketing today, and I just want to offer up a couple of reasons why. And then no, it's like, this is why they suck, you know what I mean? And the capital and everything, and it gets people really like, ooh, look at this, and then it's got 90,000 views all of a sudden because, I just kept it super real. And then so imagine if you are a provider that offers a content marketing service or platform or SaaS or something like that. This is the kind of stuff that is going to get conversation started. Now, I'm not saying you should go and do this if you're a software provider that does content marketing analytics or something like that. But this is just to get your ideas and mind flowing into some things you can do. Here's another example. Aside from that, the worst sales email follow-up line ever. You know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of stuff in here that's pretty provocative. And then before you know it, 114,000 views, 286 likes, 167 comments, and then that's where all the cherry picking begins. You start to go through all these comments, see who's commenting, what are they saying, and it just goes on for days and days and days. Look, Ali, let me get you in here. So it looks like she may have even disappeared for a moment, so that's okay. We'll try to get her back. Jesse, what are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is key to check with your department just to make sure you're not pushing the edge, because obviously you wouldn't want to put your job on the line to get a good LinkedIn post out there. But yeah, people want controversy. They want to have a discussion about something. It's unfortunate when it turns into an argument on LinkedIn, which is a professional network, but looks like Ali is back.
I'm back.
Yeah, I would say write things where people can interact, have questions in there. I love, it looks like Atina actually has probably 3 or 4 different questions in there that all are relevant to the post itself. They keep the conversation rolling. It's a great way to just build a post that gets picked up.
Yeah, exactly. So I try to inject a couple of different things into my post. A little bit of controversy at the top, a really engaging sort of first sentence, something that's going to make people say, "Ooh, what's that?" Then some humor if I can. Puppy fluff. A lot of people are commenting, "What the hell is puppy fluff?" Just some stupid word I made up, right? Because that's something that a corporate marketer would never say. Then do you agree or disagree, awful follow-up lines, all this stuff, right? But you better believe people from like Sales Loft, Outreach, Lead IQ, the list goes on and on of people who are engaged on this, cherry picking for people who are commenting on this stuff. So Ali, you dropped off for a second. We missed you, but we're really happy you're back. So
Yeah.
We were just hoping that your internet didn't give you an outage or anything. But welcome back. What's your thoughts on this? Break it down for us.
Yeah, so I mean, I think one thing I want to call out is that I think this is successful for a lot of reasons that you talked about, but not least of which is the fact that it's on brand. Like, you have a clear voice, right? And you have developed that voice over dozens and dozens and hundreds of these posts. And so I would argue that this is successful because people who know you read this and they're like, oh, Gaetano, like, I can literally hear you saying this, right? It's aligned with your personal brand. It's aligned with Sales Hacker's brand, and it's distinctive, and it's got a point of view, right? Like, you have a very colorful personality, and the more that you're able to actually share that, I think that this is the biggest problem I see on LinkedIn content, is that you have these, you can just tell these reps are just kind of churning out content like, my boss made me do it. You can basically see that in parentheses at the bottom, right? And easy for me to say because I don't have a corporate communications department kind of lording over me. But I would say the more you can develop that distinctive voice, and that just takes practice. Like, that is a magnet because people are drawn to real people with real points of view.
Yeah, fair enough. You guys see that piano behind me, right? Right there? Boom. That's my musician background, baby. Like, on stage sometimes, you see the crowd slumping, you gotta get on your knees and shred a guitar solo or something. Like, LinkedIn's no different, you know what I mean? Jesse, what's your thoughts on this, man? Before we move on to some more stuff, and we also have some questions that I want to get to as well.
Yeah, no, I think on brand is key, and there's other things that you did. So you not only did a great hook, but you also gave some practical information in there, right? Aside from that, busy running a company, not a priority, don't hit me with a 2-day spaced out follow-up. That's actually really great, right? You really don't want to use a 2-day spaced out follow-up. And so, mix some of the hooks in there with some actual practical, information.
Awesome, man. Thank you. So we do have a question here that's pretty interesting. So the question is, would you clarify no links, meaning like no links to anything, or links to things like, here's a new post that we put out, or here's a 90-second video or something like that? Ali, I'll pass it over to you. What are your thoughts on the links versus no links?
I think it's less about rule. I've noticed there have actually been a bunch of comments, questions sort of about ratios and rules and kind of rules of thumb. I would say like everyone's going to give you different rules or tips. The spirit here though is really important, and that's what drives to this question, which is like, you don't want to come across as salesy in the kind of, I'm going to push my stuff on you, right? It's actually like a mindset shift of, I'm going to share a story. I'm going to share content. I'm going to share knowledge that helps you. I'm going to give you a gift first. That relationship that we established there is what you use as the wedge to sell later, not now, right? Because again, we're all getting the 1-2 punch all day, right? And that's not hard to do. And so I think the no links means no, like, hey, check on, here are our top 10 tips, and then you can buy our product in the first comment. Like, no. But however, one that works is the LinkedIn post for this webinar, which is like, hey, we got a webinar for you guys, lots of learning on this topic. Oh, do you want more of this learning? Great. You can sign up in the first comment, right? Because that is a gift. That's like free content that's super valuable, right? Rather than, hey, buy my stuff.
Exactly. And I'm not going to post any more like webinar stuff for a while now. This is my one sort of get out of jail free for like a couple of weeks. Like, I can't post webinar stuff too much. Like, now I got to come back with something strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something different. You know what I mean? Jesse, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the relevance is really important. So my company recently redesigned the user interface. And so I posted about it. I was really stoked. I think it looks amazing. I wrote about it, and then I did a link to the full feature release, And I think that's where it's like, hey, this is my view of what's really exciting. here's where you can learn a little bit more. But there's nothing in me that's saying, hey, go and check out our product. It's the best product you'll ever see.
Right. You just sort of gave the breakdown of how everything happened, the process, and just used that as like a story.
Yeah. And it was genuine. That's the most important thing.
Nice, nice. All right, cool. Let's get into some Quora tactics. Quora, I think, is a very underutilized platform. I think not just for lead generation, but for personal branding. I think if there's a low pressure thing that salespeople can do once a week to just start getting into a rhythm of doing something differently, it's answering one Quora question per week and answering it really, really good, making sure it's better than all the other answers out there. Ideally, it's on a highly trafficked, highly viewed thread. And the beautiful thing about this is that, we all know that people don't stick with their companies forever. Ali, aside from you being a founder, Jesse, who knows if you'll be at Exec Vision forever? Who knows if I'll be at Sales Hacker forever, right? Like, it's just unknown. We don't know. But your Quora profile does stick with you. Your LinkedIn profile does stick with you, and so does your Medium. So don't forget about that. All right, so let's get into some Quora tactics. All right, so these are I think the core takeaways from what we're about to share here. The one thing I noticed about Quora, maybe a little, it's kind of similar to LinkedIn actually, but you really do have to optimize your profile for credibility and connection. And on Quora, you can have different variations of profiles. So like for me, when I answer questions about the music industry, I signify that my music industry bio and headline is going to be the primary for that answer. And then if I'm answering questions about, B2B marketing or something like that, I use my, my business profile with Sales Hacker stuff in it. Then, answer questions on Quora and summarize it in a status update. So that's a really powerful way to kind of cross use your Quora answer to fuel your LinkedIn content as well. So repurposing is something that I think is underutilized, and you don't have to spend a ton of time on this if you're a sales rep that's very busy. You can answer something on Quora, feed it into your LinkedIn updates, and you can kind of get double bang for your buck. Then use your own company's content from the blog and summarize it on Quora threads. That's something I'm going to show you that I do pretty regularly. I try to do it at least once a week. And then this is like absolute gold. You can send your Quora answers to reconnect with prospects who have gone dark, or you can use it as interesting ways to get conversations started with your target accounts or your key prospects as a nice icebreaker. And a little final hack that we're going to show you is something we do at Sales Hacker. We use Max's Quora answers to get thought leadership posts on Forbes and Entrepreneur and Huffington Post. A little known fact is that you can use your Quora answers to get republished on Forbes. So we're going to show you how we've done that here. So before we dive into all this stuff, Jesse and Ali, any key takeaways that you'd like to add to this list before we start diving into some of the examples?
I have a question for you guys because I was saying to Jesse before we started, I have not gotten into Quora yet. I focus on LinkedIn and a little bit of Medium. And I guess I'm curious, what systems do you use, or is this all in HubSpot? Like, what systems do you use to ensure, one, you've got a good repository so you know of all the content that you're creating, but then also like kind of ensuring consistency across, so maybe not just an Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, Jesse, you want to tackle this?
Yeah, so we don't necessarily have a repository that's built up. We have a really accessible blog, and everyone knows what's there. And we also use a wiki to post new things. We send out emails of new content. So really, it's just awareness. And there's different levels of how aware we want our team to be of different content. If it's sales enablement content, we want them to know about it all the time, so it keeps coming back up. And if it's just general content that maybe we had a guest post come on and it's really cool and we want them to share it, it'll go out once or twice.
Yeah. So I have a couple of actionable tips for you guys as well. There is a free version of a SEO software called Screaming Frog. I know the name sounds crazy, but Download Screaming Frog and you can crawl any website, and what it will do is give you up to 500 URLs of their most popular or highly linked content. And the way it crawls it is like from the hierarchy of the homepage down. So if you wanted to specifically crawl a site's blog, you could do that. So that's a dirty little trick, but you could see like you can get a list of all your competitors' blog content in less than like 3 minutes. All you have to do is download the free version of Screaming Frog and crawl any company's blog, and you can get all their blog URLs. If they have subfolder structures in their URLs where like they have the dates, you can see their oldest posts all the way to their newest. If they structure their subfolders by topic, you can see what kind of topics they're harping on. It's pretty cool. So it's free. There's a paid version, of course, too, but you can use a free version of Screaming Frog to get that repository, and even of your own company blog. And I'll show you some other ways you can find some of this other stuff too. Jesse, anything to add to that before we move forward?
No, that's great. We've done that several times, and it really does work.
Yeah, Ali, I don't know if you knew about that tool, but it's one of my go-tos.
Mind blown. Ready.
Go-tos, yeah. So check that out. So let's get into some examples. All right, so this guy is definitely a beast on Quora. Josh Fector, he's probably a Quora power user, one of the top Quora power users. He's always in like the top Quora writers category and all that stuff. But the one thing I just want to point out before we get into how he optimizes his profile, because this is a really unique profile, and this is an old profile of his. I found this in a blog post, but he's very, very consistent. So I think one of the things to just kind of lay out there is that one of the keys to success on Quora is definitely consistency. Just how we've kind of talked about on LinkedIn, consistency is important. I think even on Quora, it's even more important because you kind of get this compounding time-bound effect. Like over time, the more answers you deliver and the more upvotes you get and the more people that follow you, it just sort of compiles over time. But I wanted to break down some key components of his profile that are really good. So he's got a link to his company's blog or website here, which is great. He definitely strokes the ego a little bit of what people want to see: advisor, mentor, growth evangelist. These are all words that are very like unusual to see in a headline. Usually you just see something like, director of marketing, but now as people know the LinkedIn effect, you see like these huge fluffy crazy headlines. I'm not saying you should do that, but he does a good job of kind of standing out. Then he's got a link to his personal ebook that he built. So I'm not saying every salesperson in the world is going to have to write an ebook in order to be successful on Quora, but if you have some sort of lead magnet or lead generation mechanism that you can plug into your Quora bio, that's going to be useful. Then he's got some social proof here, which is great, and then some of his favorite Quora answers that he's written as links in his bio. So he's kind of designed his profile as a website landing page. How do you guys feel about this strategy?
I think that's awesome. I think I've never thought of putting my favorite Quora answers into the profile, but I think that's great just to keep interaction happening on them. I know for me, I try and have links to all of my external sites, whether that's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, my personal website, all in there. Just because with Quora, because you're constantly changing that profile, it's really hard to figure out who someone is, right? Where do they sit? How do I connect this Quora profile back to LinkedIn? And so I try and make it really easy for people to know that I'm the same Jesse Williams, especially when you have a name like Jesse Williams, where you have actors and football players and all sorts of different people who have your same name.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Damn, you got a lot of brand name competition. Ali, what are your takeaways on this?
I'm just learning, honestly, on the Quora stuff. I'm just sponging it up. I think, yeah, I'll be your most improved player after I update my Quora profile.
Nice.
And I hope all of our listeners just understand, we're all just working on this.
Oh yeah, we're definitely working. Even myself, like I've been answering Quora questions now for about, I would say like a year. I try to do one every day. I think I get around like 3,000 to 4,000 views on my answers a month, which is getting there. But we'll keep this going and see what you guys think.
Cool.
So I thought this was a pretty good example of a good answer. So he answers things that are relevant to his customers, but very top funnely. Like this sort of one thing all sales reps should know to become successful in sales. This might be the most overdone question out there, but look at this. You know, he's the top answer on this because he wrote like a really, really in-depth story. So that's the other thing too about these Quora answers. Like you can't be cheap and you can't be lazy. You got to really deliver.
Yeah.
And here's a tip. So I know that one of the things that matter the most about being successful on Quora is answering threads that have the most traffic. And the easiest way to do this is do a site:/Quora.com search in Google and then type in the topic or the target keyword that you're looking to answer questions on. So I just use lead generation because this happens to be the topic of this webinar, but you can automatically see what is the difference between traffic generation and lead generation. What will the future be of lead generation? What are lead generation activities? So Google is showing you this in the order in which they would probably rank organically in search. So this is one of the easiest ways to find not only a batch of topics that you could answer, but topics that are likely to be the most viewed and highly trafficked. What do you guys think about this strategy right here?
Yeah, I think this is great. In fact, I use this to figure out what posts I'm going to write on Medium. I figure out what are the top Quora questions because that's where people are asking, right? They're asking for content about it. So I'll go write something and post it on Medium, sometimes on a domain that ranks higher, and boom, all of a sudden you've got a post that's ranking at the top of search engine result pages.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that goes to show you like how you can really use content repurposing. You could use that Medium post and then feed it back into that Quora question again. It's like double whammy. Ali,
Yeah.
any takeaways here? I know you're a Medium power user, so maybe you'll try using this as well in the future.
Yeah, I think it's just all about like understanding what the use case is, what the objective is, and you can repurpose the same ideas in different format, and yeah, it becomes so that you are meeting the buyer where they are. Because actually what these things are, right, is that there are different points in the buyer journey. And so if I'm on Medium reading your article, I'm probably in a different part of the buyer journey than if I'm actually searching for a specific term on Quora versus if I'm, on my LinkedIn feed and I just see you. Those are different places, and you kind of learn to adjust the format for those points.
Yeah, great point. Awesome. So I hope this is a good actionable tip for everyone watching. I hope you try this out. If you do try it, let us know how it works for sure, because I'm curious to hear your results. And then this is the Holy Grail, baby, right here. This is we used this really good answer from Max, and we pitched it to the Forbes folks, and they gobbled it right up. A lot of people don't know this, but like Quora as a platform has this contributor relationship with all the major sites. So all you have to do is get enough traction on one answer. You should definitely encourage your friends and stuff to help you upvote it in the beginning to get a little traction, but don't try to game the system. And then once you get enough traction on this, you share it across your social channels enough, you can get people from Quora on your behalf to submit this to Forbes, and you can get your stuff republished in Forbes and Entrepreneur. It takes a little bit of legwork. You definitely have to do some outreach and build up a really great, credible answer, but it does work, and you can get some really nice amplification for your brand, your company, your CEO, whoever it is that you happen to want to be trying to position as a, I hate this word, thought leader, but let's just call it for what it is. And it works pretty well. So I hope this is a good tip for you guys as well to try once you get your feet wet with a bit more of this Quora stuff. But we use it at Sales Hacker, and it works pretty well. Jesse and Ali, do you guys have anything to add? Any experience with this tactic at all?
No, I think that's awesome, and that's how I became a Forbes writer is through Quora.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, and this is a important comment or question that I think is addressable here. It says, I roll at growth evangelist. No thanks. These made up LinkedIn positions make you look silly, in my opinion. From Clarissa, and I think it's related here because to me, taking the next step with Quora is how you like actually, in this example, like that's how you actually build credibility. I think my frustration with Quora as a platform, as a consumer of it, is that there's like a lot of BS out there, right? And so I think that and Jesse, to your earlier point as well, of like tying the fact that you actually know what you're talking about, and you have experience to prove it, and Max as well. I think that having that, the more you can bring that context in, it's really important as a consumer anyway, because it helps you really stand out from the crowd versus maybe perhaps made up titles that aren't as valuable. So
Yeah,
if
I agree.
you have those credentials, use them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that point. You know, the eye roll and the growth evangelist thing. I do agree. It's getting ridiculous. Okay, I'm definitely not saying that you should do that, but think of ways you can kind of balance it. Like find creative ways that you can be yourself, but you don't want to just be like, you know, evangelist of growth and blah 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 blah. Jesse, what do you think, man?
I totally agree. I can't stand the word growth in titles, to be honest. That's just me. But I have opinions on it.
Oh yeah, no, I hate it. I hate it. Because like if you think about growth, like what is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a million different ways you can chop and slice and dice growth. I mean, it could be sales, it could be lead generation, it could be inbound. I mean, what do you do? What is growth? What's all this growth stuff? Everybody's obsessed with growth. Retention could be growth. Retention
Yeah.
could be growth. This is what I try to tell when I first took over marketing at Sales Hacker. Max was obsessed with email list growth, and I'm like, dude, churn is worse than more growth.
Right.
Like if the churn if the churn is higher than the growth rate, then what are we doing? Like I would rather have less growth and reduce churn. So anyway, let's
True.
move on. Leveraging Medium. So let's blow through this so we can get to the end here because I think we got about 10 minutes left. So I just want to point out some tactics that companies can use to best use Medium. Content syndication is very important. So Sales Hacker, what we do is we have a plugin from WordPress that publishes all of our blog content right to our Medium publication, and you don't have any duplicate content problems or things like that. And the real way to maximize lead generation into your Medium strategy is by offering content upgrades into your post. Now, I know Jesse, you have some experience with this. Do you want to quickly talk about how to leverage content upgrades into Medium posts to kind of maximize your lead generation efforts with your content?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a little bit of a different approach than Sales Hacker does. We actually have a completely different branded Medium publication that's strictly for community. And we'll actually use that to embed things like, hey, we're going to be at a conference, come to this conference. And, you know, usually when you sponsor a conference, you get 10, 50% off discount tickets. So we'll advertise those there. We'll ask people to come by. And we really use that as a way to build community, interact with our community. And we try and intentionally stay away from our product, what we do. And it's purely as a benefit to our community.
That's awesome. Like I've never even thought of using Medium for that purpose. That's really good. Ali, anything to add there?
Yeah, I kind of do the same, just having it in topics of, you know, company updates and whatnot as being in the same place, just in their different tab.
Yeah, that's really smart. Cool. So breaking this down a little bit more, guest posting on popular publications that are relevant to your prospects. There's a lot of these like little Medium sites now that are their own like sub brand, like The Mission, and there's the Hacker Noon one for engineers and all this stuff. But they're wildly popular. Like people just they love them, and you can get like ridiculous engagement if you happen to land a guest post on that. So that is obviously a good way to get in front of your target audience as well. Then for all the folks that comment on your stories, in Medium they call your content stories, but we'll just go with their lingo. And then when people share your content, when they hit that little clap button and it gets shared and stuff like that on Twitter, you can see who shared it, so you can follow up with that person.
I lost you.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Something's happened with
One second. Hey, how about now? Am I back?
Hey,
Can you guys hear me?
Can you guys hear me? Hey, there we go. That was weird.
That was weird. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me okay? Everything good?
All
All right,
good.
let's keep this moving. Yeah, go to a webinar. It starts flunking out after a certain amount of time. The stove kettle's getting too hot or something. Anyway, yeah. So following up with the folks that comment and they share your stories on Medium, very important. And then connecting your Medium account to your company blog, cross promoting that on Twitter and LinkedIn to get more amplification. Let's get into some examples real quick. So this is one of the stories I was talking about, or excuse me, one of the publications I was talking about that gets hyper engagement, the mission. There are tons of these out there. Larry Kim, obviously a power user. He does this 7 things nobody tells you about being an entrepreneur, 3.9 thousand shares. Now, of course, Larry Kim is a beast. And, you know, if you're just a SDR or a sales rep at a company that's just starting out, you're not going to get Larry Kim engagement, but you got to start somewhere. So this is one way to do it. And Ali, why don't you tell us about this one, because this did pretty well and
Yeah.
this came from you. So why don't you break it down?
Yeah, so we're hiring our team right now. So I've been doing lots of talks at meetups here in LA. And so this was literally, I took a talk that I had given at the Women in Software Engineering meetup here in LA. And I took my visuals and like added, you know, a couple of sentences in between each to kind of give the flow of what I was saying and put it up on Medium. And it did relatively well. It didn't go, you know, this is like pretty good engagement for me. My gold story was the one that's in the bottom right corner called Your Company in 100 Words. It like went viral out of nowhere and had, you know, thousands and thousands of claps. And I was like, I couldn't figure out why, honestly. So there's definitely a little bit of magic to Medium, going both ways. But yeah, I think just I'm kind of experimenting like with, you know, putting presentations up there, putting like long form articles up there, shortening the length a little bit as well. I was writing way too much in the beginning. I think like 3 to 4 minute reads are ideal from what I've seen, but would be interested to see what you guys think.
Yeah, Jesse, what do you think, man?
I agree. I mean, this is a great example. Medium, a lot of times, it's really about the visuals of it, and so they do a great job of that. And if you can kind of stick with, if you look at this post, it flows really well. You know, she's not using that massive image that's kind of weird at the beginning. It fits right in, and so that's great. I love Medium. We use it for a lot of things here. A little tip: if you actually go to the Medium publications followers page, you can actually go in there, see who the moderators are, and I'll reach out to them on Twitter if we have a good post and get them to post it.
Oh man, that's a good tip. That's really smart. Something I got to do more of. A lot of the stuff is like, you know, it's achievable. You know what I mean? It's very achievable stuff. It's just like who's gonna map out the plan and do it, you know? Like to think of going to find the moderators for these publications and hitting them up. It's like, yeah, this is stuff anyone could do. So good share, Jeff.
I don't know about you guys, but it's like when you have so many tools and tabs open, it's so easy to forget that actually there are humans behind all of these, right? Like there are human moderators to Medium, and if you can build that relationship, same as you do with your prospects, like that can help you. Same with PR and like journalist relationships. Like there are humans behind all of this, which sounds so obvious, but truly you would be surprised at how much traction you can get just by leveraging those relationships.
Yeah. Yep.
It's true.
Exactly. All right, let's blow through the rest of these slides. So how to create weekly content that resonates. So use Google. The auto suggest feature in Google will give you tons of ideas and things that people are searching for and people care about. This is a super easy, quick, free way to do it. I use lead qualification just because that's a topic that I like. Then check out the people also ask box in Google, man. This is gold. If you're a sales rep or a B2B marketer and you want to get conversations started with your content, but you just don't know where to start, look at what people also ask about, man. All this stuff is just like, it's all gold, and you can click through this for days and it's going to give you tons of ideas. You can use this for Quora, for LinkedIn, for Medium, however you want to do it. questions to consider during your content ideation, things that are happening in your industry, skills that are crucial to your success, the future of your industry, advice you would give your 21-year-old self. That's actually a little fluffy, so I don't know if I would do that unless it was really good. Advice you would give to college grads. And these were just things I rattled off the top of my head as I was making this deck. So here's a bunch of good stuff that you could use. Quick recap of content types and styles that are likely to go viral in your feed. This is specifically on LinkedIn, so I just wanted to give you guys an actionable sort of last takeaway here. The storytelling approach with an emotional hook, the unique research or data-driven post, that's always a good one. Intriguing question-based content that appeals to a wide audience. Jesse had mentioned that he had experimented with that earlier and it was very successful for him. Also, you saw some of the examples of questions that I added to the end of my post that have done well. Ali, you know how to do this as well too, but that always works. Bold, thought-provoking, controversial stuff. Again, check with your communications teams. Please don't get fired, but that always works well too. And then people love free shit. Downloadable templates, checklists, special opportunities, all those sorts of things perform really well on LinkedIn especially, but you know, you can bake all of these takeaways into your content strategy and hopefully it starts working out well for you. So quick recap: storytelling, unique research or data-driven, intriguing question-based content, bold, thought-provoking, controversial, or downloadable special opportunities, checklists, and templates. So then just a couple of quick techniques. I think we already went through this on how to get conversations started, but connect with new prospects who engage with you. Don't try to sell them. Don't go for the hard sell. Play the long game. Comment on other popular threads diligently and intelligently. Share hot threads with existing prospects who may have gone dark to spark discussion. So with that said, let's conclude, guys. What did you think? There was so much stuff in here. I think it was a really robust presentation. But any final thoughts or takeaways? Ali, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, so many good tactics in here, and I think that the core things that stick out for me is that this is something that we're all working on. It's a muscle that you're building, and so just the more you can practice, the better. Use feedback from the community, and two, the core of storytelling, remembering like this is a human thing, and the more you can connect with individuals and people in this, it works for your prospects, it works for getting reach on your pieces, and it also just helps you build relationships in your industry. So can't recommend these things highly enough.
Exactly. Jesse, any final takeaways?
Yeah, this is all great stuff. I think that if there's one thing you can keep in mind, this stuff is working for us, but it might not work for you. So use this as a baseline and then go and break it. See where you can, pull a Seth Godin, and instead of doing a 400-word post, do a 15-word post and see if it goes viral. And that's what makes your content unique to you, and that's why people keep following you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, exactly. Seth Godin has like a 10-word blog, and it's one of the most popular blogs out there. All right, so some Q&A to wrap up with. Bill Miller, what's up, man? He said, which is better? What should we focus on, LinkedIn, Quora, or Medium for sales? Go ahead, Ali. I'll let you tackle this. Go ahead.
Where are your customers? Like figuring out, for me, I sell to salespeople, marketing people, and sales enablement people. They live on LinkedIn all day, every day. So LinkedIn has been smashing success for me. I also have, friends who are LinkedIn's been a total dud for them because the audience is mismatched. So figure out where your customers are.
Yeah, I would definitely add to that too by saying salespeople on LinkedIn are like super hyper engaged right now. It's a hotbed for sales. But like in my previous world before I was at Sales Hacker, I was like heavily in the SEO nerd space. And like SEO people are not on LinkedIn really. It's really fascinating. They much more prefer Twitter and actually Quora too. There's a lot of stuff on Quora about SEO. But Jesse, I'll pass it over to you, man. What do you think about where should you focus your time, LinkedIn, Quora, or Medium?
Yeah, I think you have to know your audience. I worked in the developer tooling space, and they were on Quora and they were on Medium, specifically Hacker Noon. They were all there. When I'm going after trying to build relationships with executives, a lot of times Quora is there because they're going for answers. They've got a very specific answer. They want a no BS, response to it, and that's what you get on Quora. When we want to do a promotion for a sales coaching academy for reps themselves, LinkedIn all the way, all day.
Nice. Yeah, there's some other questions in here that we didn't quite we weren't quite able to get to. We're kind of out of time, so we're actually 10 minutes over. But with that said, Ali, why don't you share with everyone where they can hit you up? Tell them about your site. What link could they go to? How can they find you? All that fun stuff.
LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. Stay in touch on LinkedIn. Just linkedin.com/Ali McKee, ALLIMCKE. Our site's stick.ai. So if you want to shoot me a note, it's Ali@stick.ai. And Twitter @founder of Stick. And love to continue the conversation there.
Right on. Jesse, where can folks hit you up and engage with you, brother?
Yeah, so you can check me out. I'm on the execvision.io. That's the company. You can see my personal site. It's jesse-williams.com. Super active on LinkedIn and really active on Twitter. But Gaetano, I don't know if you want to, but if you want to open up a thread on LinkedIn, just so people can drop some questions on there about the webinar, I'm happy to hang around and type up some answers for you guys.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me see what I have going on my LinkedIn right now. Let's see. See what we got going on here.
Got the post.
My post. Let's see if it got any questions here. Let's see. It might just be a bunch of people that said, "Hey, I'm waiting. I wanna see the recording." Let's see. We have. Won't be able to join. Love this topic. Taking notes. Can't make it, but sign up for recording. I'm late to the dance. Yes, there will be a recording. Some people said they're going to join. Yeah, so it looks like there wasn't any specific questions on the LinkedIn thread itself. It looks like it was just a bunch of people saying they were looking forward to the recording. So yeah, I guess that could wrap it up then. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. So hit us up. Definitely connect with Ali. Definitely connect with Jesse. Check out stick.ai. Check out execvision.io. Of course, check out Sales Hacker. If you guys are coming to our site, just check out our content. Share. If you like this webinar, shout us out, tag us, all that fun stuff. And if you want to hit me up, just email me, gaetano@saleshacker.com. Don't try to sell me anything, but if you want to talk and get to know each other and all that fun stuff, we'll make it happen. So thank you guys very much. With that said, we're out. Peace.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.